The first day at Hale University was supposed to be exciting. For Rowan Bell, it felt like a nightmare. The campus was filled with alphas, betas, and omegas from influential families. Luxury cars lined the entrance while students laughed and introduced themselves. Rowan adjusted the strap of his worn backpack and lowered his head. He didn't belong here. A scholarship student. An omega from an ordinary family. Someone who could never compete with the wealthy students around him. "Excuse me." A girl accidentally bumped into him. "Sorry." Rowan smiled softly. "It's okay." The girl smiled back before running away. Unfortunately, someone witnessed the interaction. Adrian Hale, the most popular alpha on campus. Son of the Hale Corporation. Future heir. Someone nobody dared to offend. Standing beside him was Vanessa Reed, Adrian's girlfriend. Vanessa frowned. Wasn't that the omega from the scholarship list? Adrian glanced toward Rowan. For a moment his expression froze. A strange scent. Weak. Barely noticeable. Yet irritating. His jaw tightened. "What?" Vanessa blinked. "Nothing." But Adrian looked again. The omega was already walking away. For some reason, Adrian found himself watching until Rowan disappeared into the crowd. Strange. Very strange. He had never paid attention to another omega before. Yet that scent lingered, annoying him, following him, making him irritated for reasons he couldn't explain. Later that day, Rowan entered his classroom. Only one seat remained. The empty seat beside Adrian Hale. His heart sank. Great. Just great. Trying not to attract attention, Rowan quietly sat down. The classroom immediately became silent. Everyone stared. No one willingly sat beside Adrian. Yet somehow the new scholarship student had done exactly that. Rowan awkwardly smiled. "Hi, I'm Rowan." Adrian didn't even look at him. "Move." Rowan blinked. "What?" "I said move. There aren't any other seats." "Not my problem." The entire class watched. Embarrassment burned Rowan's face. Before he could answer, the professor entered. Class began. Rowan thought the matter was over. It wasn't. Throughout the lecture, Adrian kept noticing him. The way he wrote notes. The way he tucked his hair behind his ear. The way he quietly apologized whenever he accidentally bumped someone's desk. Irritating. Why am I noticing this? At lunch, Adrian found himself searching the cafeteria. The realization annoyed him immediately. What am I doing? Then he spotted Rowan, sitting alone, eating quietly. Adrian turned away, only to look back a second later. Vanessa noticed. "Why are you staring at him?" "I'm not." "You literally are." Adrian's expression darkened. "Mind your own business." Vanessa froze. The answer shocked even him, because for the first time in years, he had snapped at her, over Rowan Bell, and neither of them understood why. The next morning, Rowan arrived early. He preferred empty classrooms. No whispers, no stares, no awkward conversations, just peace. He sat near the window and opened his notebook. A few minutes later, the classroom door opened. Rowan looked up. Adrian Hale, the last person he wanted to see. Adrian paused for a second. The classroom was nearly empty. Yet the first thing he noticed was Rowan sitting by the window. Again, why am I noticing him first? Annoyed by his own thoughts, Adrian walked to his seat. Neither of them spoke. Soon the classroom filled with students. The professor entered carrying a stack of papers. Pop quiz. The entire class groaned. Adrian leaned back in his chair. Easy. 10 minutes later, however, the professor frowned. There is an error in question 7. The classroom became noisy. Students started arguing. The professor checked the question and sighed. You're right. Everyone relaxed. Everyone except Adrian. Because he had noticed something. Before anyone else had spoken, Rowan had quietly raised his hand and pointed out the mistake. Not for attention, not to impress anyone, just because he had noticed it. Adrian found himself staring. Again, the professor nodded. Good observation, Rowan. A few students turned toward him with interest. Rowan immediately looked uncomfortable, as if he hated being noticed. Strange. Most people would have enjoyed the praise. Not Rowan. At lunch, Rowan sat beneath a tree reading a book. A group of classmates approached him. Hey, Rowan. We didn't know you were so smart. Want to study with us later? Rowan smiled politely. Sure. Not far away, Adrian watched. His expression darkened, for reasons he couldn't explain. The laughter, the smiles, the attention Rowan was receiving. It bothered him. A lot. Vanessa followed his gaze. She saw Rowan surrounded by classmates. Then she saw Adrian watching. Again, A small seed of jealousy planted itself in her heart. That afternoon, students were assigned partners for a project. The professor began reading names, one by one. Then, Adrian Hale. Adrian looked up. Rowan Bell. The classroom exploded with whispers. Rowan nearly dropped his pen. Adrian's face immediately hardened. No. The room became silent. The professor frowned. No. I'll work alone. You'll work with your assigned partner. Adrian's eyes shifted toward Rowan. For a second, Rowan felt strangely nervous, as if Adrian was angry simply because he existed. Fine. The words sounded more like a threat than an agreement. After class, Rowan carefully approached him. About the project, Adrian continued packing his bag. I'll do it myself. What? I said I'll do it myself. But it's a group assignment. I don't need your help. The words hit harder than Rowan expected. Embarrassed, he lowered his eyes. Okay. He turned to leave. Then Adrian noticed something. The disappointment. The way Rowan's shoulders slightly fell. The way his smile disappeared. A strange feeling twisted in Adrian's chest. Regret. It lasted only a second. Then he buried it. Good. Now he'll stay away from me. Yet as Rowan disappeared down the hallway, Adrian found himself watching him leave. Again. Always again. And for the first time, he remembered Rowan's full name without trying. Rowan Bell. A name that should have meant nothing. Yet somehow, he couldn't stop thinking about it. By the third week of college, Rowan had learned one thing. Stay quiet. Stay invisible. Go to class. Go home. Repeat. It wasn't the college life he had imagined, but it was peaceful enough. At least it was. Until the rumors started. That morning, Rowan walked through the hallway carrying a stack of books. Students were whispering. Some laughed when he passed. Others looked at him with disgust. Rowan frowned. Something felt wrong. As he approached his locker, his steps suddenly stopped. His locker door was covered in sticky notes. Bright yellow. Impossible to miss. Attention seeker. Shameless Omega. Stay away from alphas. Desperate. The books slipped from Rowan's hands. The hallway erupted into laughter. His face turned pale. What? He quickly began tearing the notes down. His hands trembled. The laughter only grew louder. Nearby, Vanessa watched with satisfaction. Everything was going according to plan. A few days earlier, she had noticed Adrian constantly looking in Rowan's direction. Not much. Just enough. Enough to make her uncomfortable. Enough to make her jealous. So she decided to get rid of the problem before it became one. All she had done was start a simple rumor. That Rowan intentionally released pheromones around alphas to attract attention. People believed it surprisingly fast. Now the entire campus was talking about him. Unfortunately for Rowan, someone arrived at the worst possible moment. Adrian Hale. The hallway instantly became silent. Students moved aside. Adrian's eyes landed on Rowan. Then the locker. Then the notes. His expression darkened. Rowan felt a tiny spark of hope. Maybe Adrian would realize this was bullying. Maybe. So the rumors are true. The hope shattered instantly. Rowan stared at him. What? Adrian folded his arms. You seem to enjoy attention. The hallway burst into whispers again. Rowan felt his chest tighten. I didn't do anything. Really? Adrian's voice was cold. Then why does trouble keep following you everywhere? Rowan couldn't answer. Because he didn't know. He truly didn't know. For a moment Adrian waited. Part of him expected Rowan to defend himself. To argue. To get angry. Instead, Rowan simply lowered his head and quietly picked up his books. That bothered Adrian more than it should have. But he ignored the feeling. Vanessa smiled. Exactly what she wanted. That afternoon, Rowan skipped lunch. For the first time since arriving at college, he hid in an empty stairwell. The voices wouldn't leave his head. Attention seeker. Desperate. Shameless. His stomach hurt. His chest felt heavy. He wanted to go home. Just for one day. Just one day without people looking at him like that. Meanwhile, Adrian sat in the cafeteria. Vanessa talked beside him. His friends laughed. Everything was normal. So why couldn't he stop thinking about Rowan? The image of Rowan standing alone by the locker kept replaying in his mind. The trembling hands. The pale face. The silence. Annoyed, Adrian shoved his tray away. Vanessa blinked. What's wrong? Nothing. But it wasn't nothing. For the rest of the day, Adrian found himself looking around campus. Searching. He didn't know why. Only realizing after class ended that he hadn't seen Rowan once. A strange irritation settled in his chest. The next morning, Rowan returned to class. His eyes were slightly red, as if he hadn't slept. When he sat down, he didn't look at anyone, not even once. For reasons Adrian couldn't explain, that bothered him too. After the locker incident, things only got worse. The rumor spread through campus faster than Rowan could stop it. Every hallway conversation seemed to include his name. Every whisper felt directed at him. Every laugh made his stomach tighten. Rowan tried to ignore it. He focused on classes, assignments, studying, surviving. But someone wasn't willing to leave him alone. Vanessa Reed. For the past few days, she had been watching Rowan carefully, looking for an opportunity, looking for a mistake, looking for anything she could use against him. And eventually she found it. Or rather, she created it. One afternoon, the class was preparing for a laboratory session. Students placed their bags near the wall before entering. While nobody was paying attention, Vanessa slipped an expensive bracelet into Rowan's backpack. Then she smiled. The trap was set. An hour later, a loud voice echoed through the classroom. "My bracelet is missing." Everyone turned. Vanessa stood up dramatically. It was here before class. Students immediately began searching. The professor sighed. "Everyone check your belongings." Rowan's heart skipped. He hated situations like this. A few minutes later, a student suddenly gasped. "I found it." The room went silent. The bracelet was in Rowan's backpack. Shock spread across his face. "What?" Vanessa covered her mouth. "Rowan." The disappointment in her voice sounded almost real. "I didn't take it." Nobody believed him. The whispers started immediately. First the pheromone rumors. Now stealing. I knew something was strange about him. Rowan's hands shook. "I didn't do this." The classroom door opened. Adrian had returned after speaking with another professor. His eyes immediately landed on the bracelet. Then Rowan. Then the crowd. "What happened?" Vanessa lowered her eyes. "We found my bracelet in Rowan's bag." Silence. Rowan looked at Adrian desperately. For the first time, he actually wanted Adrian to believe him. "I didn't take it." Adrian stared at him, his expression unreadable. Then he spoke. "Do you really expect anyone to believe that?" The words struck harder than a slap. The entire classroom became silent. Rowan felt his throat tighten. "No." His voice trembled. "I really didn't." Adrian looked away first, as if simply looking at Rowan annoyed him. The professor eventually ended the situation with a warning. No proof existed. No punishment could be given. But the damage was already done. The moment class ended, students avoided Rowan. Nobody wanted to sit beside him. Nobody wanted to speak to him. Nobody wanted to be associated with him. By evening, Rowan found himself alone on a bench behind the library. The campus was nearly empty. His untouched lunch sat beside him. He wasn't hungry. Recently, he rarely felt hungry. He was tired. Tired of explaining. Tired of defending himself. Tired of losing battles he never started. A few minutes later, footsteps approached. Rowan immediately stood. "Adrian." "Of course. What do you want?" The question surprised even Adrian. Usually Rowan spoke politely. Today he sounded exhausted. Adrian frowned. For some reason, he didn't like hearing that tone. "You seem angry." Rowan laughed bitterly. The sound was small. Broken. "Shouldn't I be?" For a moment neither spoke. The evening wind moved through the trees. Then Rowan looked directly at him. "Why do you hate me so much?" Adrian froze. The question caught him off guard. Because he didn't actually have an answer. Not a real one. Not one that made sense. Instead, he said the only thing he could. "Because you're always causing problems." The moment the words left his mouth, Rowan smiled. Not happily. Not sadly. Just defeated. "I see." Then he picked up his bag and walked away. No argument. No explanation. Nothing. Adrian watched him leave. Again. Always watching. His chest felt strangely uncomfortable. For the first time, a thought entered his mind. What if? What if Rowan wasn't lying? The thought lasted only a second. Then Adrian buried it. Because believing Rowan would mean admitting he might have been wrong. And Adrian Hale never believed he was wrong. Far behind the library windows, Vanessa watched the entire interaction. Her smile slowly faded. She had expected Adrian to ignore Rowan. Instead, he had followed him. Again, and again, and again. For the first time, Vanessa felt something dangerous. Fear. Because the more Adrian claimed to hate Rowan, the more attention he seemed to give him. After the bracelet incident, Rowan started avoiding Adrian whenever possible. Different hallways, different exits, different lunch hours, anything to stay out of his way. Unfortunately, fate seemed to have other plans. One afternoon, the professor assigned a temporary laboratory exercise. Students were divided into pairs. When the names were announced, Rowan felt his stomach drop. Adrian Hale and Rowan Bell. The classroom immediately became quiet. Vanessa's smile disappeared, Adrian's expression darkened. Neither looked pleased. For the next hour, they worked together in uncomfortable silence. Rowan focused on the assignment. Adrian focused on not looking at him. Then suddenly, a faint scent drifted through the air. Adrian froze. Again. That scent. The strange scent that had been bothering him since the first day. His jaw tightened. The scent was stronger than before. Much stronger. Across the table, Rowan continued writing notes. Completely unaware, Adrian stared at him. The timing was too suspicious. Every time they were forced together, every time Rowan was close, the scent appeared that a dangerous thought entered Adrian's mind that he's doing it on purpose. Immediately, irritation exploded inside him. Rowan looked up. What? Nothing. The answer came out colder than intended. But Adrian's eyes never left him. By the end of class, the scent had become impossible to ignore. Adrian left without saying a word. Unfortunately, Vanessa noticed everything. That evening, she approached Adrian. You smelled it too, didn't you? Adrian remained silent. Vanessa sighed. I didn't want to say anything. What? I think Rowan is releasing pheromones around you intentionally. Adrian's expression darkened. Vanessa lowered her eyes, pretending to be concerned. Maybe he wants attention. The words landed perfectly, because they matched every suspicion Adrian already had. Every rumor, every misunderstanding, every assumption. And from that day forward, Adrian stopped seeing Rowan as an innocent classmate. He started seeing him as someone deliberately trying to manipulate him. Meanwhile, Rowan remained completely unaware. He didn't know his body was reacting. He didn't know Adrian could smell it. And he definitely didn't know that a misunderstanding had just begun that would change both of their lives. The days following the laboratory assignment were miserable for Rowan. More miserable than usual. He couldn't explain it. Every time Adrian looked at him, there was a new hostility in his eyes. Not simple annoyance. Not irritation. Something worse. Disgust. As if Rowan had done something unforgivable. The problem was, Rowan had no idea what that thing was. One morning, he entered class and sat quietly at his desk. A few minutes later, Adrian arrived. The moment Adrian stepped into the room, he smelled it. That scent. Faint, but present. His expression immediately darkened. Across the room, Rowan was busy organizing his notes, completely unaware. To Adrian, however, it looked like an act, an innocent mask. The more Rowan appeared innocent, the more Adrian became convinced he was pretending. Because surely nobody could be that unaware. Surely nobody could release pheromones repeatedly and not know it. Right? Wrong. But Adrian didn't know that. At lunch, Rowan sat beneath his usual tree. A beta classmate named Ethan approached him. Mind if I sit here? Rowan smiled politely. Of course. For the next few minutes, they discussed assignments and upcoming exams. It was one of the first normal conversations Rowan had enjoyed in weeks. Unfortunately, someone was watching. Adrian, from across the courtyard. His eyes narrowed. Why was Ethan laughing? Why was Rowan smiling? Why did that bother him? The feeling annoyed him immediately. He stood up and walked over. The conversation stopped. Ethan looked surprised. Adrian ignored him. His eyes remained fixed on Rowan. You seem free lately. Rowan blinked. What? If you have time to sit around talking all day, maybe you're not taking classes seriously enough. The accusation came out of nowhere. Rowan stared. So talking to someone is a problem now? Adrian's jaw tightened. The response irritated him more than it should have. Before he could answer, Ethan stood. I'll leave. The moment Ethan walked away, Adrian felt relieved. The realization only made him angrier. What is wrong with me? That evening, Vanessa found him alone. You were watching Rowan again. Adrian looked up sharply. I wasn't. Vanessa laughed softly. You always say that. Her words made him uncomfortable. Because recently he wasn't sure if they were true. He noticed Rowan constantly. The library, the cafeteria, the hallways, the classroom. Even when he wasn't looking for Rowan, somehow he always knew where he was. Vanessa sat beside him. You need to be careful. What do you mean? People are starting to notice. Adrian frowned. Notice what? The way he follows you. The lie slipped effortlessly from her lips. Adrian didn't respond. Vanessa continued. I saw him outside your building yesterday. In reality, Rowan had simply been walking home. But Adrian didn't know that. He keeps finding reasons to be around you. The seed was planted. And once planted, it began growing. The next day, another incident occurred. The class was taking an important test. Halfway through, one of the alpha students suddenly complained. "Do you smell that?" Immediately, several heads turned. The classroom became restless. Adrian's eyes locked onto Rowan. Again, always when Rowan was nearby. The professor ordered everyone to remain calm. The disturbance passed quickly, but the damage was done. Whispers filled the room. Rowan lowered his head, confused, embarrassed, ashamed. He didn't understand what was happening. After class, Adrian cornered him in an empty hallway. For the first time, his patience snapped. "What exactly are you trying to accomplish?" Rowan stared. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Stop pretending." Adrian stepped closer, his voice low and dangerous. "The innocent act is getting old." Fear flashed across Rowan's face. Not because Adrian shouted, but because he genuinely seemed to hate him. And Rowan still didn't know why. "I haven't done anything." The words sounded small, exhausted, broken. Adrian laughed coldly. "Keep telling yourself that." Then he walked away, leaving Rowan standing alone. For several minutes, Rowan remained there, silent, confused, his hands trembling. For the first time since arriving at college, he wondered if leaving would be easier. Far away, Adrian paused at the end of the hallway. Without thinking, he looked back. Rowan was still standing there, alone, looking completely defeated. A strange pain twisted in Adrian's chest. It lasted only a moment. Then he ignored it, just as he always did. Because admitting he might be wrong was far easier than asking why Rowan's sadness affected him so much. The semester was only halfway over. For Rowan Bell, it already felt endless. Every day began with whispers. Every hallway carried rumors. Every classroom felt colder than the last. The worst part wasn't the bullying. It wasn't the accusations. It wasn't even the loneliness. The worst part was Adrian. No matter how hard Rowan tried, Adrian always seemed to look at him with disappointment. As if Rowan had already been found guilty. As if Adrian had already decided what kind of person he was. And nothing Rowan said would ever change it. One evening, Rowan remained in the library long after sunset. He had 3 assignments due. His part-time job started in 2 hours, and his scholarship required him to maintain top grades. Failure wasn't an option. Exhaustion was. As Rowan packed his books, he nearly fell asleep at the table. A librarian gently woke him. "Rowan." He blinked. "You should go home." Rowan smiled weakly. "I will." The smile disappeared the moment he stepped outside. Across the courtyard stood Adrian, watching him. Again. Lately it happened all the time. Whenever Rowan looked up, Adrian was there. In class, in the library, in the cafeteria. Always watching, always judging. Rowan lowered his head and hurried away. Meanwhile, Vanessa stood beside Adrian. She had noticed something troubling. The rumors weren't working anymore. Students still talked about Rowan, but they were starting to lose interest. Even Adrian seemed distracted, obsessed almost. Vanessa hated it. She hated how often Adrian mentioned Rowan. She hated how often Adrian noticed Rowan. She hated how often Adrian looked for Rowan. Most of all, she hated that Rowan didn't seem to notice. That night, Vanessa made a decision. If small rumors couldn't destroy Rowan, then she would create something bigger, something permanent. The next few days became strangely quiet. No new rumors, no new accusations, no public humiliation. For the first time in months, Rowan felt relieved. Unfortunately, he didn't realize the silence was a warning. Vanessa was planning, waiting, preparing. One afternoon, she approached Rowan with an unusually friendly smile. "Hey." Rowan looked surprised. "Vanessa? I heard you've been working really hard lately." Rowan nodded awkwardly. "I guess. You should take better care of yourself." The concern sounded genuine. For a brief moment, Rowan wondered if she had changed. Maybe he had misunderstood her. Maybe things were finally improving. Vanessa handed him a bottled drink. "You look exhausted." Rowan hesitated, then accepted it. "Thank you." Vanessa smiled sweetly. The moment Rowan walked away, her expression changed. Cold, satisfied, cruel. Across campus, Adrian unknowingly watched the interaction. His jaw tightened immediately. Why was Vanessa talking to Rowan? Why was Rowan smiling? Why did that bother him? The irritation stayed with him for the rest of the day. That evening, while studying alone, Rowan suddenly felt strange. His head spun. His body felt unusually warm. His heart raced. Something wasn't right. Maybe he was just tired. He had been working too much lately. Skipping meals. Skipping sleep. Pushing himself too hard. That had to be it. It never occurred to him that someone had deliberately set a trap. As night fell over campus, Rowan gathered his books and stood. The world tilted slightly. He grabbed the edge of the desk. Confused, dizzy, uneasy, a feeling of dread settled in his chest, as if something terrible was about to happen. And for once, that feeling was right. The next morning, sunlight streamed through the gym windows. Adrian slowly opened his eyes. His head throbbed. The events of the previous night were a blur. Fragments, broken memories, the overwhelming scent, the locked room, hours of frustration and confusion. Then his gaze shifted. Rowan was asleep nearby. His face was pale from exhaustion. The blanket Adrian had draped over him during the night had slipped onto the floor. For a moment, Adrian's mind went completely blank. Then, the door burst open. Adrian. Vanessa rushed inside. The moment she saw Rowan, tears instantly filled her eyes. Students gathering outside the gym immediately began whispering. Vanessa covered her mouth. Shock, disbelief, heartbreak. The performance was flawless. I trusted you. The room fell silent. The scene was enough. The misunderstanding was complete. Adrian looked at Rowan, then at Vanessa, then at the growing crowd outside. Every rumor, every accusation, every suspicion he had ever believed came crashing together. His expression darkened. In his mind, there was only one conclusion. Rowan had planned everything. When Rowan finally woke up, dozens of eyes were staring at him. Confused and frightened, he slowly sat up. What happened? Nobody answered. Only whispers greeted him. Whispers. Judgment. Disgust. Rowan looked toward Adrian. For one brief second, he hoped. Hoped Adrian would explain. Hoped Adrian would tell everyone the truth. Instead, Adrian looked away. That single action shattered something inside Rowan. He tried to explain. Nobody listened. He denied the rumors. Nobody cared. Not even Adrian. Especially not Adrian. And that day became the day Rowan Bell's life completely fell apart. The scandal spread across campus before noon. By evening, everyone knew. Or at least they thought they did. Every hallway conversation included Rowan's name. Every phone screen displayed rumors. Every whisper followed him wherever he went. The rumors had grown far beyond anything Rowan could control. At first, people claimed he deliberately released pheromones around alphas for attention. Then the stories became worse. Students whispered that he targeted wealthy alphas on purpose, that he used his pheromones to make them lose control, that he dreamed of finding a rich alpha to take care of him. The gym incident only fueled the gossip. Now people claimed Rowan had intentionally trapped Adrian Hale. According to the rumors, everything had been part of a plan from the beginning. A poor Omega trying to secure a wealthy alpha. It didn't matter that none of it was true. By now, the truth had become irrelevant. People believed what they wanted to believe. Rowan sat alone in the back of the classroom, head lowered, hands trembling. He hadn't slept. He hadn't eaten. And for the first time since arriving at the university, he didn't have the energy to defend himself. Students openly stared. Some laughed. Others moved their chairs farther away, as if sitting near him would somehow contaminate them. The professor entered. Even he looked uncomfortable. Nobody mentioned the gym incident directly. They didn't need to. Everyone already knew, or thought they did. When class ended, Rowan packed his bag quietly. He hoped to leave before anyone stopped him. Unfortunately, fate wasn't on his side. Rowan. The voice made him freeze. Adrian. The entire classroom immediately became silent. Students watched with anticipation. Rowan slowly turned around. For a brief second, hope flickered inside him. Maybe Adrian wanted to hear his side. Maybe he wanted an explanation. Maybe. You should stop. The hope died instantly. Rowan frowned. Stop what? This act. The words were sharp, cold, merciless. Several students nearby nodded. Vanessa stood beside Adrian, looking heartbroken. The performance was convincing. Even now, even after everything. Rowan stared at them. Then suddenly, he laughed. A small laugh. Tired. Broken. The classroom fell silent. Do you know what's funny? Adrian frowned. Rowan looked directly at him. The first time in months. I don't even know what I'm being accused of anymore. Nobody spoke. For a moment, the room felt frozen. Then Vanessa stepped forward. Rowan. Tears filled her eyes. I never wanted things to become like this. The lie was perfect. Students immediately sympathized with her. Rowan simply looked away. He was too exhausted to argue, too exhausted to care. By lunchtime, another rumor appeared online. Then another. Then another. Every story became worse than the last. Nobody knew the truth. Nobody wanted the truth. The truth was boring. Rumors were more entertaining. That evening, Rowan sat alone behind the library, the same bench he had occupied countless times before. The campus lights glowed softly. Students laughed in the distance. Life continued, as if his world wasn't falling apart. Footsteps approached. Rowan didn't look up. He already knew who it was. Adrian. Again. Always Adrian. For several seconds, neither spoke. Finally, Adrian broke the silence. You could end all of this. Rowan laughed bitterly. How? Tell the truth. Those 3 words shattered something inside him. Slowly, Rowan stood. His eyes were red. Not from crying. From exhaustion. Weeks of exhaustion. Months of exhaustion. You want the truth? Adrian remained silent. Rowan nodded. Here's the truth. His voice trembled. I never stole anything. Silence. I never started those rumors. Another silence. I never tried to get your attention. Adrian's jaw tightened. Rowan continued. And no matter how many times I tell you that. A painful smile appeared on his face. You'll never believe me. The words hit harder than Adrian expected. For the first time, he couldn't respond. Because somewhere deep inside himself, a tiny part of him wondered if Rowan was right. Rowan picked up his bag. I'm tired. Then he walked away. Not angry. Not crying. Not shouting. Just tired. Adrian watched him disappear into the darkness. Something felt wrong. For months he had convinced himself Rowan was manipulating everyone. So why did Rowan look like someone who had finally given up? Far away, hidden behind a building, Vanessa watched everything. And for the first time, she smiled. Because she knew she was winning. She had successfully turned the entire university against Rowan. Even Adrian. Especially Adrian. And she had no intention of stopping now. Vanessa knew this would be her final move. After tonight, Rowan Bell would be gone. She was certain of it. Over the following days, she carefully arranged everything. A few well-placed rumors. A few manipulated situations. A few lies whispered into the right ears. Soon, students began noticing Rowan's pheromone fluctuations again. Every incident. Every misunderstanding. Every coincidence. Vanessa made sure Adrian heard about all of them. By the end of the week, Adrian's patience had completely run out. The final incident happened after class. Several Alpha students suddenly reacted to Rowan's unstable pheromones. Rowan immediately tried to leave. Embarrassed, confused, ashamed. But the whispers followed him. Just like always. He did it again. He's trying to attract attention. I told you he was targeting wealthy alphas. The words spread through the crowd. And Adrian heard every single one. The anger that had been building for months finally exploded. That evening, a heavy storm rolled over the city. Rain hammered against the campus buildings. Thunder echoed across the sky. Rowan was on his way home when Adrian stopped him. For a moment, neither spoke. Rain soaked their clothes. The wind howled around them. Then Adrian's voice cut through the storm. How much longer are you going to keep lying? Rowan stared at him, too exhausted to even defend himself. You still think I planned all of this? Then explain it. I've tried. Adrian clenched his fists. Months of suspicion. Months of jealousy. Months of misunderstanding. Everything crashed together. You always have an excuse. Something inside Rowan finally broke. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Quietly. Completely. His shoulders slumped. His eyes lost the last bit of hope they had been holding on to. You're right. Adrian froze. The answer wasn't what he expected. Rowan laughed softly. A tired, empty laugh. Believe whatever you want. The anger got the better of Adrian. He shoved Rowan against the wall and slapped him twice across the face, but Rowan didn't flinch. Furious, he struck Rowan again, causing him to fall to the ground. Even then, Rowan remained silent. Adrian dragged Rowan to his car and took him to his penthouse. The moment they stepped inside, Adrian's anger exploded. He slapped Rowan again, his eyes filled with rage. Is this what you wanted? Adrian shouted. Is this why you've been trying so hard? To get my attention? To be with me? Rowan shook his head desperately, tears filling his eyes. No, Adrian, that's not. But Adrian refused to listen. Blinded by his anger and the lies he believed, He ignored Rowan's pleas and cries. Hours passed. Near midnight, Vanessa arrived at the penthouse after discovering that Adrian had brought Rowan there. The moment she entered, she put on a performance. "I knew it," she said dramatically. "He planned this from the beginning. Everything he does is to get your attention. Look at him now. He finally got what he wanted." Rowan stared at her in disbelief. "That's not true." Vanessa laughed coldly. "Stop pretending. You've been trying to trap Adrian for years." Already consumed by anger and misunderstanding, Adrian believed every word. Furious, he turned toward Rowan. "Get out." Rowan froze. "Adrian." "I said get out." Adrian grabbed Rowan by the arm and dragged him toward the door despite his weak protests. The rain was pouring heavily outside. Adrian shoved him out into the storm. Rowan stumbled and fell onto the wet pavement. Before the door closed, he heard Vanessa's voice one last time. "Pathetic." Vanessa smirked at Rowan before turning back to Adrian. Satisfied with what she had done, she slipped her arm through his and led him away, leaving Rowan alone in the cold rain. The next morning, Rowan never appeared in class. Students assumed he was sick. By afternoon, people began talking. By evening, rumors spread that Rowan had been hospitalized after collapsing. What nobody knew was what had really happened that night. When campus security made their morning rounds, they found Rowan unconscious near a drainage ditch behind one of the campus buildings. He was drenched from head to toe, covered in mud, shivering from hours spent in the cold rain. His condition was so serious that an ambulance was called immediately. For 2 days, Rowan remained unconscious. Doctors worked around the clock to stabilize him. Severe exhaustion, dehydration, stress, and multiple injuries. His body had finally reached its limit. When Rowan finally opened his eyes, he found his parents sitting beside his hospital bed. His mother was crying. His father looked exhausted. Neither of them asked him what had happened. Neither of them demanded explanations. They only knew one thing. Their son had left home full of dreams. And now he was lying in a hospital bed looking completely broken. A few days later, his parents made a decision. Rowan would never return to that university. The withdrawal papers were submitted immediately. His dormitory belongings were collected. His scholarship was abandoned. Everything ended quietly, without goodbyes, without closure, without anyone knowing the truth. Far away from the hospital, Adrian tried to ignore the rumors. He failed. The next day, he found himself looking toward Rowan's empty seat. Again, and again, and again, something about the empty chair bothered him, more than it should have. 3 days later, he finally went looking for him. His dorm room was empty. The library staff hadn't seen him. The cafeteria workers knew nothing. Nobody seemed to know where he was. Eventually, Adrian stopped one of Rowan's classmates. "Where's Rowan?" The student looked surprised. "You didn't hear?" "Hear what?" "His family took him away." Adrian's heart skipped a beat. "What do you mean?" "They came a few days ago." The student shrugged. "I heard he withdrew from the university." "Withdrawn. Gone. Just like that." Adrian stood frozen. For months, he had wanted Rowan to disappear. For months, he had convinced himself life would be easier without him. So why did the news feel like a punch to the chest? That evening, Adrian couldn't focus. Not on his classes, not on his work, not on Vanessa. His mind kept drifting back to Rowan, the quiet student who always sat near the window, the student he constantly watched, the student he constantly accused, the student he could never seem to ignore. For the first time, Adrian noticed how silent the campus felt without him. No glimpse of him in the library. No sight of him beneath the tree during lunch. No chance encounters in the hallways. Nothing. Just emptiness. That night, Adrian sat alone in his room. A strange feeling settled heavily in his chest. Something wasn't right. Something felt unfinished. For the first time since meeting Rowan Bell, he realized he had no idea where Rowan was. No idea if he was safe. No idea if he was recovering. No idea if he would ever see him again. And for the first time, the thought terrified him. For months, Adrian searched relentlessly for Rowan. He used every connection, every resource, and every ounce of his influence. Yet Rowan seemed to have vanished without a trace. Before Rowan left, his family had begged the school principal not to reveal any information about him to anyone. They wanted to protect their son and help him start a new life away from the pain he had suffered. Now, Adrian was left with nothing but regret and an endless search for the Omega he couldn't find. One day, after watching Adrian obsess over another dead end, his friend finally asked. "Why are you still searching for him? Are you in love with him?" The question hit Adrian harder than he expected. Love? His mind immediately drifted to Rowan. The way Rowan's smile used to brighten a room. The way his chest tightened whenever Rowan was hurt. The way he couldn't stop thinking about him even after months apart. And then another realization followed. This was what love felt like. What he had with Vanessa wasn't love. Not once had he searched for Vanessa when she wasn't around. Not once had the thought of losing her made him unable to sleep. Not once had her tears broken his heart. But Rowan's absence was destroying him. For months, he had been searching without understanding why. Now he finally knew. He loved Rowan. He had fallen in love with the Omega he had lost. And for the first time, Adrian was terrified that he had realized it far too late. Meanwhile, hundreds of miles away, Rowan sat quietly in the back seat of a car beside his parents. His university grew smaller and smaller in the distance. He never looked back. Not once. Because some wounds hurt too much to revisit. And some people were better left in the past. Yet despite everything, his thoughts drifted back to Adrian. To the very first day he had seen him. Rowan still remembered it clearly. The confident alpha walking across campus. The way everyone seemed drawn to him. The way Rowan's heart had skipped a beat the moment their eyes met. It had been love at first sight. A foolish, impossible love. The moment Rowan learned Adrian already had a girlfriend, he had tried to bury those feelings. He had told himself to stay away, to move on, to stop hoping for something that would never belong to him. But his heart had never listened. Even after Adrian insulted him. Even after the rumors. Even after the humiliation. Even after all the pain Adrian had caused him. A part of Rowan had still wanted Adrian to notice him, to look at him, to see him, to choose him. How pathetic, he thought bitterly. Even when Adrian was the source of most of his suffering, Rowan had still loved him with everything he had. A tear slipped down his cheek. This time, he didn't wipe it away. Because this would be the last time. The last time he would think about Adrian. The last time he would allow himself to love a man who had never truly seen his worth. As the car continued down the highway, Rowan closed his eyes and silently said goodbye to his first love. 6 years later, Rowan Bell's life looked nothing like it once had. The university, the rumors, the heartbreak, all of it felt like a lifetime ago. Now, his entire world revolved around one person. His son, Noah Bell. Noah had come into his life under circumstances Rowan never liked to remember. That night had left scars he carried even now. Memories he rarely allowed himself to revisit. Memories that still hurt. Yet from one of the darkest periods of his life, something beautiful had emerged. Noah, his unexpected gift, his greatest blessing. The little boy had filled a void Rowan thought would never heal. Every smile, every laugh, every tiny hand reaching for his. Every sleepy, "I love you, Daddy." They gave Rowan a reason to keep moving forward. A reason to fight. A reason to live. There were still nights when the past crept back into his mind, reminding him of everything he had lost. But then Noah would run into his arms, grinning from ear to ear, and suddenly the pain wouldn't seem quite so overwhelming. Noah was the light that guided him through the darkness. The proof that even after heartbreak, life could still give him something worth cherishing. As Rowan watched his 5-year-old son laughing across the room, a soft smile touched his lips. The past had taken many things from him, but it had also given him Noah. And Rowan would choose his son 1,000 times over. But life had never stopped testing them. For months, Noah had been suffering from a rare and worsening medical condition. The treatments were expensive, the medication even more so. Every hospital visit ended the same way. Another bill, another prescription, another impossible choice. Rowan worked himself to exhaustion trying to keep up, but it was never enough. One afternoon, Rowan sat beside Noah's hospital bed while the boy slept peacefully. The machines around them beeped steadily. The doctor entered with a file in hand. His expression was serious. Rowan immediately stood. "Doctor." The doctor sighed. "Your son's condition is progressing faster than expected." Rowan's face tightened. "What does that mean?" "He needs immediate specialized treatment." A pause. "The medication required is extremely expensive." Rowan lowered his gaze. Of course it was. It always came down to money. The doctor softened his tone. "There may be one option." He handed Rowan a form. "A corporate charity program. The Hale Foundation." Rowan looked at the papers. Hope flickered, small, fragile. "The CEO personally reviews high-value medical cases," the doctor explained. I've already submitted preliminary details. Just complete this application. I'll attach your son's reports. Rowan nodded slowly. Thank you. The doctor gave a tired smile. Don't thank me yet. Approval is not guaranteed. Later that day, Rowan carried Noah through the hospital corridor. The boy slept against his shoulder, exhausted from tests. Rowan adjusted the blanket gently. He didn't notice someone watching him. Vanessa Reed. 6 years had changed many things. But not her memory, not her bitterness, and definitely not her ability to twist the truth. Her eyes narrowed as she observed Rowan and the child. Then she turned away quietly. That evening, she entered Adrian Hale's office. 6 years had changed him too. Now one of the youngest and most powerful CEOs in the country. Cold, controlled, unshaken, at least on the surface. Vanessa placed a file on his desk. I saw Rowan Bell today. Adrian didn't look up. What about him? Vanessa sighed softly, as if reluctant. He has a child now. That made him pause. Slowly, Adrian looked up. Vanessa continued carefully. I spoke to a doctor. A beat. They said Rowan married into a wealthy alpha family years ago. Adrian's expression didn't change. But he listened. Vanessa's voice softened into something almost sympathetic. Apparently, after leaving university, Rowan used his pheromones to get close to a wealthy alpha and married into his family. She shook her head sadly. But the marriage fell apart. The doctor said Rowan was caught trying to seduce his husband's older brother. A pause. The family threw him out after that. Vanessa leaned back slightly. Now he's alone with the child. From what I heard, he spent years struggling after being abandoned by that family. And now, she shook her head slightly. He's struggling to pay for the child's treatment. A pause. Then she added the final lie. Apparently, it's karma. The child has a severe illness. The doctor said Rowan has already spent everything trying to fix it. Silence filled the room. Vanessa watched him closely. Then she slid the application file forward. It's under the Hale Foundation. Adrian stared at the name. Rowan Bell. A name he had not seen in years. Memories flickered. Rumors. Accusations. Rain. Silence. Abandonment. His jaw tightened. Without reading the details. Without checking the medical reports. Without asking a single question. Adrian signed the rejection approval. Vanessa exhaled softly. Satisfied. The file was closed. The decision was made. And somewhere far away, a child's treatment plan was cut off before it even began. Neither of them realized the truth. The child they had just condemned was Adrian Hale's own son, and the consequences of that decision had only just begun. The hospital room felt colder than usual. Rowan sat beside Noah's bed, holding the rejection letter in his hand. His fingers trembled. Denied. Just like that. No explanation that could save his son. No second chance. No hope. No, Rowan whispered. Noah shifted weakly in bed. Papa? Rowan immediately forced a smile, hiding the letter behind his back. It's okay, sweetheart. Go back to sleep. But once Noah fell asleep again, the smile disappeared. Rowan stood and walked out of the room slowly. The doctor was waiting outside. I'm sorry, the doctor said quietly. The application was rejected. Rowan didn't respond at first. His throat felt tight. After everything. After all the work. After all the hope. The doctor hesitated before speaking again. There is one more option. Rowan looked up immediately. The doctor adjusted his glasses. The CEO of the Hale Foundation personally reviews special cases. If you can meet him directly, there is still a chance. Rowan's heart tightened. Can I meet him? The doctor nodded. I can arrange an appointment. But it may not be easy. Please. 2 days later, Rowan stood outside a tall corporate building. The Hale Foundation headquarters. His hands gripped Noah's medical file tightly. This was it. His last chance. Inside the building, everything felt too clean. Too expensive. Too far removed from his world. A receptionist guided him toward a private office. Mr. Hale will see you now. Rowan's breath hitched. Hale. He didn't think much of the name. He only thought of Noah. The door opened, and Rowan stepped inside. He froze. Sitting behind the desk was Adrian Hale. 6 years. 6 long years. And now he was here. Rowan's breath caught in his throat. Adrian looked up slowly. The room went silent. Recognition hit both of them at the same time. But Adrian's expression hardened immediately. Vanessa was standing beside him. Rowan's chest tightened. Of course she was here. Vanessa's eyes widened for a brief second, but she quickly composed herself. Rowan, she said softly, as if surprised. Adrian stood up. So it's you. Rowan took a step forward instinctively. Please, his voice cracked. I need your help. Adrian's eyes narrowed. Vanessa sighed. Adrian, I already told you about him. Rowan didn't hear her properly. All he saw was his son's face. All he thought about was Noah lying in that hospital bed. He walked closer. I'm not here for me, Rowan said quickly. It's my son. He's very sick. Please, just approve the treatment. Silence. Adrian's expression darkened slightly. Vanessa placed a hand lightly on Adrian's arm. He's good at this, she murmured. He always knows how to ask for sympathy. Rowan froze. What? Adrian's gaze turned cold. So this is your new act? Rowan shook his head immediately. No. Please, I'm not lying. My son is dying. Vanessa let out a soft sigh. Rowan, you really haven't changed. The words broke something inside him. Rowan suddenly stepped forward and dropped to his knees. Please. The sound echoed in the office. Both Adrian and Vanessa froze. Rowan grabbed the edge of Adrian's trousers. I'm begging you, please save my son. His voice cracked completely. Tears fell without control. I'll do anything you want, just don't let him die. The room went silent. For a moment, even Vanessa didn't speak. Adrian stared at him, kneeling, begging, broken. Something unfamiliar flickered in his chest, but it was quickly buried, because Vanessa's words echoed in his mind. He used people. He lies. He always plays the victim. Adrian clenched his jaw. You really have no shame, he said coldly. Rowan flinched, but he didn't let go. Please, I'm begging you. The silence stretched. Minutes passed. Finally, Adrian exhaled sharply. Get up. Rowan didn't move. Please approve it first. Adrian looked away. Vanessa watched carefully. The tension in the room shifted. Finally, Adrian spoke again. I'll approve it. Rowan froze. For a second, he couldn't believe it. Really? Adrian's expression remained unreadable. Don't misunderstand, he said coldly. It's not because of you. Rowan nodded quickly. I don't care why. Thank you so much. He was still on his knees, still shaking, still crying. But for the first time in months, there was hope, even if he didn't know how fragile it really was. And Vanessa smiled quietly, because she believed she had won again. 3 months had passed. The world continued moving as if nothing had changed. But for Rowan Bell, every day still felt like survival. Noah's treatment had begun after the approval. Slowly, painfully, but there was progress. And for the first time in a long time, Rowan allowed himself to breathe. At Hale Foundation Hospital, preparations were underway for a small charity inauguration event. It was meant to be a simple ceremony, a thank you gathering for families who had benefited from the foundation's medical support. And of course, Adrian Hale was expected to attend. The CEO rarely appeared in public events, but this one mattered. So he came. Outside the main hall, patients and families gathered. Children were given small gifts, sweets, chocolates, small toys. Noah stood quietly beside his grandparents. Rowan was not with them at that moment. He was working a temporary shift inside the hospital, trying to manage expenses while Noah attended the event with his grandparents. Noah looked around curiously as volunteers handed out chocolates. One of them smiled warmly and offered him a piece. Here, sweetheart. Noah accepted it with a small nod. Thank you. The volunteer smiled. You're welcome. This is all possible because of Mr. Hale's foundation. Noah looked toward the hall. Mr. Hale? Yes, she replied. The CEO who helped fund your treatment. Noah held the chocolate carefully in both hands, as if it was something precious. I want to say thank you to him. The boy said softly. Inside the hall, Adrian stood near the stage. Vanessa was beside him, speaking to staff members, but his attention wasn't fully there. Something about this event felt different. He couldn't explain it. A slight discomfort he couldn't name. A few minutes later, the families were invited into the hall for a brief meet and greet. Applause filled the room as the CEO was introduced. Adrian stepped forward calmly. Professional, controlled, distant. People thanked him. Some bowed. Some cried. Some held their children up so they could wave. Adrian responded politely, but detached. Until a small boy walked forward from the crowd, holding a chocolate in both hands. Noah. He stopped a few steps away from the stage, looked up, and spoke clearly. Are you the one who helped me? The room quieted slightly. Adrian looked down at him. For a moment, he didn't respond. Something in the boy's face made his chest tighten. Familiar. Too familiar. Noah continued innocently. My doctor said you helped pay for my treatment. He lifted the chocolate slightly. Thank you. Silence. Adrian stared at him longer than he should have. The shape of his eyes, the expression, the small tilt of his head. A memory tried to surface, but was immediately pushed back. Behind the child, an elderly couple stood watching. Rowan's parents. They looked tired, worried, familiar in a way Adrian couldn't place consciously, but his mind still registered it. Something about them unsettled him. But Vanessa quickly stepped closer. Adrian, she whispered, we should move to the next family. He nodded slightly, but his eyes stayed on the child for another second. Noah smiled again. Thank you, sir. And then he turned and walked back toward the crowd. Adrian didn't move. For the first time in years, something inside him didn't feel controlled. It felt shaken. Not recognition. Not yet. But something dangerously close to it. And somewhere far behind the crowd, Rowan was just finishing his shift inside the hospital corridor, completely unaware that the moment everything would change had already begun. The event ended with applause, smiles, photographs, gratitude. But Adrian Hale wasn't present in any of it. Not mentally. Something about the child's face lingered in his mind long after the hall emptied. Noah. The name repeated itself quietly in his thoughts. Uncomfortable, unfamiliar, yet disturbingly persistent. That night, Adrian returned to his office. The building was silent. Vanessa had already left, claiming exhaustion. But Adrian remained seated at his desk. Still, quiet, thinking. For the first time in years, he opened the charity database manually instead of relying on summaries. He entered the child's case file. Noah Bell. Medical records loaded slowly on the screen. Adrian read. At first, it was routine. Diagnosis, treatment plan, funding approval history. Then something caught his attention. Emergency intake date. His eyes paused. It matched a timeline he hadn't expected. A strange coincidence. He scrolled further. Hospital location. Transfer history. Original registration details. Then, a name. Emergency contact. Rowan Bell. Adrian froze. The room felt colder. He stared at the screen longer than he should have. Rowan Bell. The same name. The same hospital system. The same foundation. A coincidence. That's what he told himself. But his fingers didn't move away from the keyboard. Instead, he opened another record. Family details. The system loaded slowly. And then, another name appeared. A familiar surname. Bell. Adrian leaned back slightly. Something in his chest tightened. Not clarity. Not conclusion. Just confusion, building pressure. Meanwhile, elsewhere in the city, Vanessa was standing in her apartment, phone pressed tightly to her ear. Her expression was no longer calm. It was sharp. Controlled panic. What do you mean he accessed the file? She snapped. The voice on the other end hesitated. He asked for the full medical record, not just the summary. Silence. Vanessa closed her eyes briefly. That was not supposed to happen. Not yet. Not ever. Did he see the contact details? She asked. Another pause. Yes. Her grip tightened on the phone. Make sure nothing else is flagged under that name, she said quickly. And delete any cross-reference logs. She ended the call, then stood still. For the first time in 6 years, Vanessa Reed felt something she hated. Uncertainty. Back in his office, Adrian stared at the screen again. Rowan Bell. Noah Bell. Same surname. Same hospital chain. Same timeline. And the same strange feeling from earlier that day. The child's eyes. That expression. That familiarity he couldn't explain. Adrian slowly closed the file. But even after the screen went dark, the thought didn't leave. What are you hiding, Rowan Bell? He didn't realize it yet. But for the first time in 6 years, he wasn't just remembering Rowan. He was starting to search for him. Adrian sat still for a long time after the screen went dark. But the darkness didn't bring relief. It only made the thoughts louder. Rowan Bell. Noah Bell. The same surname circling in his mind like it refused to settle into coincidence anymore. He reached for the file again. Opened it. Scrolled slower this time. More carefully. Then he saw it. A scanned document attached to the original hospital registration. Birth record verification. Adrian's eyes narrowed. His cursor hovered. Then clicked. The file expanded. And everything inside him stopped. Mother, Rowan Bell. Father, not listed. But below that, a secondary hospital-linked entry. Genetic marker note. Standard emergency cross-check system. 99.8% match to registered donor profile. Adrian Hale. Adrian stared. No reaction at first. Just silence. Then his chair shifted slightly as he leaned closer. Read it again. And again. It didn't change. The system didn't correct itself. It didn't explain itself. It just stated it. Cold. Final. Truth. His breathing slowed. For a moment, the entire room felt too small. Too bright. Too real. No. The word came out barely audible. He stood up abruptly. The chair hit the floor behind him. This time he didn't notice. He opened another tab. Emergency medical logs. Treatment approvals. Hospital funding trail. His own signature appeared on multiple documents. Then, a rejection record. His signature again. Adrian froze. His hand slowly left the mouse. Because suddenly, the pattern was no longer unclear. It was horrifyingly clear. Noah Bell wasn't just a child he had unknowingly helped. He wasn't just another case. He was his son. His own son. The same child he had seen smiling in the charity hall. The same child he had approved without understanding. The same child he had almost abandoned on paper because of someone else's lies. Vanessa's voice suddenly echoed in his memory. He married a rich alpha. He left them. He's just using the child. Adrian's jaw tightened. Slowly, painfully, everything shifted. Not anger. Not confusion anymore. Recognition. And then, regret. Heavy. Immediate. Unavoidable. His phone rang. He didn't look at it, but he knew who it was before seeing the name. Vanessa Reed. For a moment, he didn't answer. Then he did. What else did you lie about? His voice was low, dangerously calm. Vanessa paused. Adrian, I asked you a question. Silence. Then her tone changed slightly. Careful. Controlled. What are you talking about? Adrian closed his eyes briefly. When he spoke again, it was quieter. I know. That was all he said. But Vanessa understood immediately. Because silence answered everything she needed to know. On the other end of the line, her breath tightened. Adrian, listen to me. He ended the call. No shouting. No argument. Just silence. Finality. And for the first time in years, Adrian Hale didn't feel in control of anything. Not his company. Not the past. And not the damage he had already done. He grabbed his coat and left the office. Not as a CEO, but as a man who had finally realized. He was already too late. Adrian didn't drive slowly. He didn't think about rules or traffic or consequences. Only one thing existed in his mind now. Truth. Across the city, Vanessa was still trying to maintain control when everything started slipping out of her reach. Her phone wouldn't stop ringing. Internal alerts. System access warnings. Audit initiation notices. Her confidence faded with every notification. This shouldn't be happening, she muttered. But it was. Because Adrian had already opened everything. Every file. Every record. Every lie she had carefully placed over 6 years. And now, it was all being stripped away in real time. Back at the hospital, Rowan stood outside a bright treatment room. The atmosphere here was different. No emergency alarms. No chaos. Just soft light, quiet machines, and calm monitoring. Noah was inside, sitting up in bed, watching a small cartoon on a tablet while a nurse checked his vitals. He looked tired, but stable. Alive. Rowan watched him through the glass. Relief and fear mixed in his chest in equal measure. He's improving, a nurse said gently beside him. Rowan nodded slowly. That was all he had wanted. Just this. A chance. Footsteps approached behind him. Fast. Unsteady. Rowan turned and froze. Adrian Hale stood there, breathing uneven, eyes locked on the room beyond Rowan's shoulder. On Noah. Rowan immediately stepped sideways, blocking the view. No, he said sharply. His voice was quiet, but firm. You don't come here and look at him. Adrian didn't respond. Not yet. His eyes stayed fixed on the boy inside the room. Alive. Moving. Laughing softly at something on the screen. Healthy enough to sit up on his own. Rowan's voice cracked slightly. You don't get to appear now like none of this happened. That finally made Adrian look at him. And what Rowan saw made his chest tighten. No arrogance. No denial. No defense. Just collapse. Adrian spoke quietly. I know. Rowan's breath hitched. No, you don't. Adrian stepped closer. His voice broke slightly. I know everything. Silence. Rowan stared at him. Suspicion first. Then confusion. Then something dangerous. Hope. Adrian swallowed hard. Vanessa lied. That name froze the air between them. Rowan didn't move. Adrian continued, slower now. All of it. I checked the records. I saw the truth. His voice dropped. I rejected your son because of her lies. Rowan's expression changed instantly. Pain flashed across his face. Then anger followed. Sharp. Raw. You rejected him, Rowan repeated. Not a question. A fact. Adrian didn't deny it. That silence confirmed everything. Rowan stepped back slightly. His voice came out low. You didn't just believe her. A pause. You chose her version over us. Adrian flinched. Rowan's eyes glistened, but he didn't let anything fall. 6 years, he whispered. I survived 6 years thinking you hated me for a reason. His voice broke slightly, and it was just her. Silence stretched. Heavy. Unforgiving. Adrian took a step forward. I didn't know. Rowan cut him off instantly. That's the problem. His voice was sharp now. You never knew anything about me. He glanced toward the glass door. Noah was still inside, laughing softly at the screen. Safe. For now. Rowan's voice dropped again. But he's still the one who pays for it. That hit harder than anything else. Adrian closed his eyes briefly. Not denial. Not escape. Just pain. Realization. I want to see him, Adrian said quietly. Rowan didn't answer immediately. He looked at him for a long time. Then, not yet. Adrian looked up instantly. Rowan's voice was steady now. He doesn't know you. A pause. And I won't let you confuse him. Silence. Adrian nodded slightly. Not because he agreed. Because he understood. For the first time, Rowan wasn't rejecting him out of anger. He was protecting his son. From him. For the next few days, Adrian didn't leave. Not completely. He didn't enter the hospital room freely anymore. He didn't push. He didn't demand. Instead, he came and stood outside the hospital corridor. Every day, same time, same place, just waiting. Sometimes Rowan noticed him. Sometimes he didn't respond at all. And sometimes, he simply walked past without a word. It wasn't acceptance. It was tolerance. Barely. Rowan was exhausted by it. Not because Adrian was loud, but because he wasn't. The silence was worse. It reminded Rowan of everything that had already been broken. One afternoon, Rowan finally stopped in front of him. You don't need to stand here every day, Rowan said flatly. Adrian looked at him. I'm not here for you, he replied quietly. A pause. Then softer. I'm here for him. Rowan didn't answer immediately. That answer was the first thing that didn't sound like manipulation. Days passed. Then weeks. Adrian kept his distance. But he stayed consistent. Never forcing entry. Never forcing conversation. Just showing up. Like something he refused to abandon again. One day, Rowan finally allowed it. 5 minutes, he said. Adrian looked up immediately. Rowan continued. You can sit with him. No pressure. No questions. No confusion. Adrian nodded once. That was enough. Inside the room, Noah looked up curiously as Adrian entered. He didn't speak much. Just observed. Adrian sat down carefully beside the bed. Not too close. Not too far. Just present. Noah tilted his head. You came again. Adrian gave a small nod. Yes. Noah studied him. Then asked casually. Why do you come so many times? Adrian paused. Then answered honestly. Because I want to learn how to stay. Noah didn't fully understand the meaning. But he liked the answer. He returned to his toy. And Adrian stayed. Weeks slowly turned into routine. Adrian didn't try to replace Rowan. He didn't try to claim anything. He just existed nearby. And slowly, Noah started recognizing him. Not as a stranger. Not as hospital man. Just the man who comes back. One afternoon, Rowan was sitting outside the room when Noah's voice came from inside. It was small. Curious. Papa. Rowan immediately looked up. Yes. A pause. Then Noah asked something simple. Something innocent. Something that broke Rowan more than anything else ever had. Do I have a daddy? Silence. Rowan froze. Inside the room, Noah continued. Other kids here have one. Another pause. I don't. Rowan's breath tightened. For a moment, he didn't know what to say. The truth was complicated. Painful. Incomplete. He looked through the glass. Adrian was sitting quietly inside, unaware of the question. Just present. Just trying. Rowan's expression slowly changed. Something inside him shifted. Not forgiveness. Not trust. But realization. A thought he had been avoiding for years finally surfaced. Even if he wasn't a good husband, he might still be a father who could show up. Noah didn't need perfection. He needed presence. Rowan exhaled slowly. Then stood up. He opened the door. Adrian, he said quietly. Adrian looked up immediately. Rowan's voice was steady. Come here. A pause. Adrian stood. Rowan didn't look at him directly, but he spoke clearly. He asked about you. Silence. Adrian's eyes widened slightly. Rowan continued. And I think he hesitated. This is the part where you decide if you're going to be consistent or not. Adrian didn't respond immediately. Then, I will be. Rowan finally looked at him. Long. Carefully. Then nodded once. Then prove it. And for the first time, he didn't shut the door completely. Inside the room, Noah looked up as both men entered together. Confused. Curious. Then he smiled slightly. Are you staying today too? Adrian crouched slowly. Yes. Noah tilted his head. Then you can be my daddy for today? Silence. Adrian froze for a second. Then something in his expression softened completely. Yes, he said quietly. I can be. Noah smiled brighter. Okay, daddy. And just like that, something inside Adrian finally stopped breaking and started becoming something else. Adrian didn't come as a CEO that day. No suit. No authority. No walls. Just a man standing outside the hospital room. Waiting. Rowan stepped out. He already knew. They removed her, Adrian said quietly. Rowan nodded once. I saw. Silence stretched between them. Not uncomfortable anymore. Just heavy. Adrian spoke again. I don't expect forgiveness. Rowan didn't respond immediately. Adrian continued. I don't even deserve to be here. A pause. But I can't walk away anymore. Rowan finally looked at him. Really looked. No anger this time. Just exhaustion and awareness. What do you want then? Rowan asked. Adrian hesitated. Then, to not lose him again. Silence. Rowan's expression tightened slightly. That's not something you ask for. I know. Another pause. Then Adrian said quietly. I want to earn it. That word stayed in the air. Earn. Not take. Not demand. Earn. From inside the room, Noah's voice came softly. Papa. Rowan turned slightly. Yes. Noah continued. Can he come in today? Rowan froze. Adrian didn't move. He didn't speak. He just waited. Rowan looked at him for a long moment. Then finally, 1 hour, Rowan said. A pause. Not more. Adrian nodded immediately. Okay. And this time, he stepped inside not as a stranger, but as someone who had finally stopped pretending he didn't belong there. The hospital room felt different that day. Not heavy. Not tense. Just quiet. The kind of quiet that comes after too many storms. Noah was sitting on the bed, legs swinging lightly, holding a small drawing sheet given by the nurse. Rowan stood near the window, and Adrian sat a little distance away. Not too close. Not too far. Just present. It had taken time to reach this kind of silence. Time neither of them could ever get back. Noah looked between them, then smiled softly. Today is nice, he said casually. Rowan glanced at him. Yes, he replied gently. Adrian nodded once. It is. That small agreement felt unfamiliar, but real. After a few minutes, Noah went back to coloring. The room settled again. Rowan finally spoke. You don't have to come every day, he said quietly. Adrian didn't look away from Noah. I know. A pause. But I still will. Rowan's expression tightened slightly. You're not owed anything here. I know that too. Silence followed. No argument. No defense. Just acceptance. Later, Noah suddenly held up his drawing. It showed 3 figures. 1 small, 2 larger. He pointed proudly. That's me. Then he pointed to Rowan. That's Papa. Then hesitated. Finally pointed at Adrian. And you? Rowan froze slightly. Adrian looked at it longer than he expected to. Noah tilted his head. You can be in it, right? Adrian's voice softened. If you want me there. Noah nodded immediately. Then stay. That word landed deeper than anything else. Stay? Not leave. Not come and go. Stay? Rowan quietly turned away for a moment. His chest tightened. He didn't interrupt. But something in him shifted. Not forgiveness. Not acceptance yet. Something in between. After a while, Noah fell asleep. The room grew still again. Rowan stepped outside first. Adrian followed. The corridor was empty. For a long time, neither spoke. Then Adrian finally said, I don't expect anything from you. Rowan didn't respond immediately. Adrian continued. I know I destroyed too much. A pause. Then quieter. But I can't change it if I don't stay. Rowan turned slightly. His voice was calm. Why are you really here, Adrian? Silence. Adrian looked down for a moment, then answered honestly. Because I realized something too late. He looked up, and I can't let my son grow up thinking he wasn't worth staying for. Rowan's eyes tightened slightly. That's not something you can fix with words. I know. Another pause. Then Adrian said softly. So I'll use actions. Silence stretched again. Then Rowan spoke, quieter this time. You're not forgiven. I know. You might never be. I know that too. Rowan exhaled slowly, then nodded once, then stopped talking. Adrian blinked slightly. Rowan continued. And just stay consistent. That wasn't forgiveness. But it wasn't rejection either. It was something new. A boundary. A beginning. Inside the room, Noah stirred slightly in his sleep, then softly murmured, Daddy. Both men froze. Rowan turned instantly. Adrian didn't move. Noah turned his head slightly in sleep. Don't go. Rowan closed his eyes for a moment. Adrian's breath hitched quietly. Neither of them spoke, but something unspoken passed between them. Not trust, not peace, but a fragile understanding that things were no longer what they used to be. And maybe they never would be again. Rowan finally whispered, one step at a time. Adrian nodded. One step at a time. And for the first time in years, there was no lie between them, only what came next.